Welcome in to a new episode of NASCAR Inside the Race, presented by Consumer Cellular. I'm Drew Blickensderfer, crew chief of the 10. I'm joined by Travis Peterson, crew chief of the 34. Well, Travis, Homestead Miami Speedway, it doesn't disappoint. Mile and a half racing with this next-gen car. It's exciting throughout, and we had one heck of a finish.
I mean, what a race all around. The multiple grooves, you had different strategies. We had an amazing finish lined up on a late restart between three guys below the cut line. It's everything you could ask for. I know it's not the finale right now, and I know we only go there once a year, but sign me up for going there as many times as we can possibly go.
Exactly. I'm on that bandwagon as well. But we need to talk about how this race was won. Let's get into some of that here.
Yeah, so we're going to start by talking about what the 45 did. And he ran long in the third stage when everybody else short pitted or kind of split the stage even. And what we're going to highlight is the 45's final pit stop. So right here's the 45 car coming down to pit lane. And the 12 and 5 are over here on track. Basically, you lose a lap when you pit plus 1 second.
There's actual data that Billy Scott's probably looking at that says when I am only a second ahead of these guys, it's going to take a certain time for our pit stop. We will cycle back out and be able to unlap ourselves quickly. What he doesn't want to happen is the 12 and the 5 get far enough ahead, it takes him multiple laps to get back on the lead lap, because that would completely end their day if a caution were to come out.
As this plays forward, we're going to see him come down pit road, and when he comes off right behind him, but one lap down, and passes him basically through the next corner.
These guys have 25 to 30 lap older tires right now. Tyler Reddick is merging back onto the racetrack. You see the 12 and the 5 going by. It's not going to be anything for Tyler Reddick on fresh tires at Homestead to go right to the bottom, get his lap back. He literally stayed about 100 yards a lap down. Now Billy Scott in the 45 car, they're on the lead lap. They have the best tires, and they're going to get a fortunate caution coming up.
What I don't think people notice, though, is if this thing went green, he doesn't have enough laps. Yes, he's going to be almost 3 seconds a lap faster right now at this point. There's, 15 to go or so? Yeah. He's not going to drive all the way back around the racetrack.
That's right. He was hoping for a caution in those 30 laps when he stayed out, or right here where you see Kyle Larson and Ryan Blaney racing side by side around the lap car of Austin Dillon, and the 5 spinning out.
And that crash set up the final restart, which is super exciting, sets up the final 2 laps that we saw that were amazing with all the passes. Let's go back to that restart zone and talk about it. We have the 45 out here on the outside. He's the leader. He stayed out because he had just hit pit road. He only had 1 corner or 2 on his tires before that caution came out. So he's in the outside lane here, and everybody else had just came down and got fresh rubber. It does look like as we go into turn 1 here, though, his a little bit warmer tires, maybe only 1 corner on them, do plague him a little bit, because these guys on the fresh, cold rubber, they all blow right by him through the first corner, and at this point it looks like it's going really bad for him.
Yeah, they're going to go race, and what we see at Homestead is on new tires, the bottom is okay on restarts if you have to go down there, like Denny Hamlin is, like Chase Elliott is right here, and Tyler Reddick just commits to the wall, and that's something you'll see kind of throughout the next 6 or 7 laps that helps him get back to the front.
Yeah, the wall's a little bit more of a defensive approach. You're always going to have a good run on corner exit from the wall. So it allows you to be a little more on defense. But those guys shooting the bottom and washing up in front of them were able to get control of the race right here. And it goes that way for a couple laps, sets up these final 2 laps with Denny in the lead, Blaney in second, and Reddick still catching them back now in third.
Yeah, and what the 12 and 45 are trying to do here is just go opposite of whatever the leader's going. So you see Denny here run the middle of the racetrack, Reddick's up by the wall, Blaney goes to the bottom. You want as much clean air on your nose as you can have. Reddick will get the big run down the straightaway and close in a little bit, and in here you see the battle for the lead. Blaney's car went really well through the bottom there and kind of was able to pull up next to the 11, take the lead, and you still have Reddick lurking back there, running the wall right behind him.
Yeah, so Blaney takes the lead coming to the white. Everybody thinks now it's Blaney's race to lose. And we're going to go in the final corner. Reddick is third. But just like we talked about, everybody just commits to the opposite lane of what they saw the guy in front of them do. And we're going to pause it right here because you have Denny all the way at the fence, Blaney running the middle, and Reddick just committed lower than where Blaney went to because some of these guys pick up the throttle and wash up to the middle. There's so many options, and that's what created this. But if Blaney's down here, air blocking the 45 can easily just go run the middle. So there's really no good way to air block here as well as other tracks.
And I almost feel like that was going through Ryan Blaney's head of do I run the bottom, do I run the top? I've run the middle a lot of the race. I'm just going to stay in the middle. I have the ability to unwind the wheel and kind of drift up towards the top of the racetrack. If Blaney unwinds the wheel, he can kind of drift up this direction, get where he needs to go to block the 11 if the 11's coming with a big run. The only thing that he can't do is probably slow down enough to get to the bottom and block Reddick. And you'll see Reddick gets a great run off turn 2, off the bottom. And he's got 7 or 8 laps on his tires right now, which is hard to do. So it shows you how good his car was at this point of the race.
Yep, heading down the back. Blaney has a little bit of a better run on the 45. The 11 doesn't get there to push him. The moment of truth is right here. The 12 kind of goes back to the middle like you just talked about. He's run there for several laps. We'll break that down in a second. The 45 just commits. He drives it in until he says, I have to get side by side with him to get this win, and that's what he does. He drives it in there. We have another one of these cutouts. If Blaney enters just a little bit higher here, he probably air blocks the 45, but the 45 has options too.
Yeah, if he does that, the 45 is probably diving to the bottom. He's got such a big run, and then he'll do the famous slide job and get back to the top to block on exit and have a great ability to pass him that way. But Blaney's kind of in no man's land here. He goes in soft compared to the 45. The 45, usually you back up your corner a little bit when you're running the top. He barrels it off in there and gets to his right rear really quick. And once you get to that right rear, it's pretty much game over.
Let's back up, though, to Blaney's final few laps and talk about what we saw here. So this is SMT, like we've talked about. We have Blaney versus himself on the final lap, 2 to go and 3 to go. And just kind of looking over the overall data again, we have mile per hour at the top, then gear, you can see shifting. We're going to break down where some of that might have impacted the brake and steering of the final lap. So let's just watch this forward and kind of talk through it. Again, like we talked about with Homestead, he runs 3 different lines through 1 and 2 on the final 3 laps, and it's pretty even for those 3 different lines because there's just all those options at Homestead. But you wanted to talk about right here down the backstretch.
Yeah, one thing I noticed right here down the backstretch is it looks like Blaney has a hard time shifting right in here because you see these lift marks. Should be one solid lift mark like the green is, like the orange is. The blue, there's a lot of lift marks going down the backstretch, and that's on the final lap. It looks like when he lifts to get it into 5th gear, it didn't go.
The way these guys shift is they just do a quick little lift after preloading the shifter, right? We don't have to do the H pattern like we used to. They just preload it back, and then they quick blip, and it jumps into gear. It looks like either his first lift wasn't enough to get it to jump into gear, or his preload wasn't enough. He has to go through a couple of those little lifts with the blue, and you'll see as we play it forward here, we're going to pause again. He went from the exact same mile an hour to 1.5 miles almost off of what he had from the orange line the run before.
Yeah, you're coming to the checkers to seal your fate to go to the championship 4 here, leading the race down the backstretch at Homestead. You're not lifting any more than you have to, and that was quite a few lifts. So like you said, Travis, it's kind of going into turn 3, the most pivotal moment of the race as we watch it play out.
I don't know if there was a little bit in indecision. We talk about all these lanes that we've been talking about. I think right here he's worried. Do I commit to the top and then he slide jobs me? Do I go to the bottom to try to air block him? Because he knows he's right there behind him. He knows he's going to make that move. And you can see here that his downshift and his brake point are a little bit earlier than they were the last few runs, and that gives Reddick that opportunity to get to the outside. So let's stay in SMT. We'll go to the final lap for all 3 of the competitors, and we can watch what happens from all of their vantage points now.
You can really see here, Travis, how good of a lap Tyler Reddick has. They started the same at the start-finish line, and Tyler Reddick beats them both through 1 and 2, running the bottom. So that gave him that great run down the backstretch on Ryan Blaney. Right here, you can see it, just keeps stretching it out once he gets into 3 and 4.
I mean, it's just so much commitment. Look at his speed up here. He just drives it in until, again, he knew he had to get side by side with the 12, and he just somehow made it work.
Yeah, the other thing, when you look at the steering trace, the blue is Tyler Reddick, and when it has a big drop like you see right here, that's him turning back to the right. And race car drivers don't want to be turning to the right that much, that often, especially going for a lead of the race. So he was in full commit mode. You see him sawing back and forth on the steering wheel. These are 3 guys that are going for a race win to seal a hopeful championship run in Phoenix.
Well, Tyler Reddick got it done. Amazing final lap move for sure.
Besides those 3, Travis, there are a couple Hendrick drivers that were battling for wins towards the end of this race. We'll see what caused them to fall out of contention next.
It all comes down to this, Martinsville. One last shot to race for a title. The greatest fear being left out in the cold. Don't be on the outside, be on the inside. It's NASCAR Inside the Playoffs on True TV and Max.
Well, Travis, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, both had a shot to punch their ticket to Phoenix, but both came up short. Let's dive into what happened with Kyle Larson first.
Yeah, so Larson had quite the exciting day. Let's back up a little bit, right? We're going to show his spin and break it down. But he had a flat tire and a spin earlier, damaged his diffuser a little bit. He was racing around us at several points in the race, kind of mid-pack, 10th to 15th. So for him to even be in this shot to have a chance to throw a race-winning move was a very impressive part of their day. But this is what happens when he goes for the lead on Blaney.
Yeah, this looks like Kyle Larson got a little overzealous at this moment. They were both going around a lap car of the three. Kyle Larson threw it in there. There was probably just enough room that Ryan Blaney gave him, racing him really clean, trying to let them both go by the lap car. And when he drove in so hard to try to clear that lap car, he gets loose, bounces off the 12 a little bit, and ultimately spins out with about 15 laps to go.
Right here, I think, is an important thing a lot of people talked about. The 5 kind of just does a lazy spin, gets it back going, and starts rolling again. And you can see right here, he's coming out alongside the 31 and 11 cars. The way this rule works, when the caution comes out under yellow, everybody else is frozen at the last timing loop they came through. But if you're in the crash, it's wherever you get rolling again, because usually you're on the apron or you have flat tires and you don't get going for a lap or you're behind everybody else. The way that rule is wherever you naturally blend back in line is where you come out. So he's going to naturally come out right behind the 11 car here. Just wanted to make sure we touched on that because so many people had questions about that specific moment. So here's the aerial shot of that move right before it happens. And again, just like we talked about in the last one, Blaney's running that same middle line. That's just where his car worked in 3 and 4. He had to cheat the entry a little bit, probably because he was fighting a tight condition on entry. And it just barely opens this sliver of space for the 5. Because honestly, you wonder if the 12 should be just a little bit up here, kind of pinching off the 5 so he can't get there with the 3 car. But he had to enter that middle, gives the 5 just a little bit of breathing room, and that gives the 5 that moment where he's like, I can get him right here, I'm going to do it, and that's what kind of leads to this.
Yeah, what you'll notice is when we watch that, the 3, he's kind of right in front of both of them. Blaney goes to go by him, and then what you'll see is Larson is going to dive from behind the 3 to kind of clean air. And a lot of things will happen to your race car when you're getting dirty air from the 3 and then your nose gets into clean air. He either got tight, he got loose, something he had to overcorrect, and there wasn't enough room between those 2 cars for Kyle to save it.
We talk about air blocking in the car, the air going over the cars. I mean, this whole thing is just a jumbled mess to turbulent air. There's no little arrows or anything else we can do. That is just messy. And he had that wreck earlier where he damaged his diffuser a little bit, could have hurt his total downforce a little bit.
Yeah, Larson had a great recovery to get where he was at. Unfortunate spin right here. It really put him behind and took him out of a chance to win the race.
The 9 car, great car all day, led a ton of laps. Final restart here, lines up in the 3rd place. Let's watch how this plays out.
Blaney doesn't get a great start, and it kind of affects the 9 right here.
Yeah, and the 9 sends it off in there 3, almost 4 wide because of Blaney. He's thinking, all right, I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to have an opportunity here. The unfortunate part for him is there's enough cars on his outside. He doesn't get a great exit. He's got a chance right here, but this bottom line just doesn't get the straightaway speed.
Yeah, like we talked about, the middle and the top gets such a run down the straightaway that Chase can't use the whole racetrack, which is really affecting him down the backstretch and kind of puts him in a position to where he's not with that front 3 to be able to race for the lead.
Denny does commit to the bottom, and right here he's in a little bit of dirty air, which I think if Denny runs the wall right here, Chase has another chance to be 3 wide, competing for 2nd. Denny takes a little bit of his air. He still clears the 45 on the exit of this corner, but as he goes down here into turn 1 again, he sees he's too wide. He goes to the bottom. Again, he's in the dirty air of the 12. He has to back up his corner a little bit to stay tidy to the bottom, and what you're going to see is the 45 comes around the outside, and at this point, he's lost all his momentum, and other guys are competing for the win.
The longer this run goes, that bottom's going to get worse and worse, and you kind of see it here with the 9. He's not able to make up the ground once he couldn't on that first lap.
Gets trapped in the dirty air, unfortunately kind of settles into 4th and fades a bit, and those 3 settle it out about 5 laps later.
Unfortunate days for those 2. Right now they're both below the cut line. Let's check how the standings stack up and what these guys and others will need to do heading to Martinsville to try to punch their ticket to Phoenix.
Hey race fans, Corey LaJoy here. Join Ryan Flores and myself for Stacking Pennies each week. I'll break down my race and explain what happened right out of my windshield.
Plus, we award the Dogs of the Week for the best pit crews and go in-depth on all the money stops, pit road mistakes, and penalties.
And we've got a ton of guests. We have SVG stopping by. We had Ricky Stenhouse after he punched Kyle Busch in the face. We've had Bubba. We've had all sorts of guys in here in the Nonsense Garage, so you do not want to miss it. Check us out on Sirius XM Channel 90, YouTube, or wherever you find your podcasts. Each and every week, Stack of Pennies. That's what's up.
I'm Ryan Flores. Join Kim Kuhn and myself each and every week right here at Around the Track. Whether you are going to the racetrack or watching from home, we get you ready for all things national and regional level.
And we'll tell you who and what to watch for each week. Plus, we get you ready for the weekend at the racetrack, and Erica will help you place your bets to win some easy money.
Be sure to check out Around the Track every Wednesday on NASCAR's YouTube channel.
All right, Travis, one race to go to make Phoenix here for this championship 4. 2 are in, 2 spots available. Let's look at the points and what people are going to have to do to make it to Phoenix.
Yeah, so this is the points as they entered last weekend. All we did talking the last few weeks was about how these guys in the bottom are in must-win situations. Well, check. Tyler Reddick did that. So now we see how it reshuffles it up. And again, another guy wins from below the cut line, really, really narrows the gap at the final points.
Denny Hamlin gets closer to that cut line, so he's hoping for no new winners. He's hoping so that, you know, if we can get somebody, I can score points to get my way in. Even though it's a long shot, he got himself in a lot better spot than he was last week.
Denny's very good at Martinsville. 18 points is not an insurmountable feat for him. So there is a chance for him on points. Obviously, Christopher Bell looking at one of the best spots on points here. The little nuggets are if he finishes third, no matter what happens, no matter who wins, he'll be in on points in the final spot. If a new winner from below the cut line doesn't happen, I think he has to finish around 11th or so, depending on stage points and everything.
Yeah, and if you get an untimely caution towards the end of a stage, a lot of these guys aren't worried about points right now because there's a lot to be made up. The Chase Elliott's, the Ryan Blaney's, even the Denny Hamlins, they need a race win. So they're going to be on a similar strategy, which is probably going to keep this group of guys close together throughout the race.
Yeah, it could be really interesting if Adam Stevens sees a 5 to go caution and can stay out, win a stage, get 10 points. He only has to finish 20th. Maybe he'd go for it, but everybody else flipping stages going for race wins for sure. Let's look at how all these guys have performed at the last 2 Martinsville races and talk about who we think might be the favorite.
Christopher Bell, unfortunate spring race. But besides that, these are the best of the best. And you look at Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, William Byron, all of these guys have won races there recently and are probably the odds-on favorites to going into this race as well.
Yeah, this race last year, Ryan Blaney got the win, locked himself into the Final Four. And in the spring race, it was kind of a Hendrick domination. William Byron got the win that time. Byron doesn't need that win. His teammates do. So it'll be interesting to see if it's the 3 of them lined up again, how they play that out.
Well, one thing these guys will have to battle, Travis, you and I as well, because we'll be there, is a new tire this fall. Different than the spring, so that'll kind of throw a monkey wrench into some of the setup plans or what to expect on Saturday and Sunday leading up into the race. But you can catch the Cup Series Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC.